So tonight we're going to talk about system-driven design. That is essentially an approach or a mindset we can utilize when we need to solve complex problems. Just a note, some of the concepts that we go through reflect the work of Alison Bugaman. She's a researcher and founder of Systemic by Design. All right, before we dive into the topic, let me introduce myself. My name is Rodolfo Ferro Casagrande, and I'm the head of design at Helcim. Helcim is a fintech payments company based in Calgary. We provide payments technology to our merchants in Canada and the US. I oversee a design team of about 20 people. It stretches across product and marketing. So as you can see here from the slide, you can also follow our new Instagram page that will showcase the work of the design team at Helcim. You'll know more about the projects and processes we work on and so on. We literally just created it, so there isn't a lot yet, but we are committed to this initiative of talking more about who's behind Helcim Design, so you'll see it growing fast. All right, so you can scan the QR code if you want. Okay, so let's dive into the topic and let's start with this question. What sets great companies apart? Here I kind of listed a couple, like three potential factors. Talented people, innovative products, and quality. So talented people, certainly they can make a huge impact into defining company success. Innovative products, so for a company being able to strategize product innovation is definitely a core aspect of successful companies. And quality, so the same way quality and the resulting product experience is a key factor. Companies that are able to inject quality into their product offering can gain an advantage over the competition. So these are just three components. There are many more, and the reality is that all of these are true, but they are all built upon two components: cultures and systems. So everybody knows how important cultures are inside an organization. And I like to think of cultures as enablers. They define the personality of a company and they bring people closer. But it is less obvious the role of systems into defining company success. A company that has well-designed systems can significantly enhance its execution capabilities and boost its performance. So that results into an increased productivity and better outcomes. And I like to think of systems as engines for execution. So systems go beyond business and organizations. They literally define the way we live in our societies. They can influence cultures the same way cultures influence systems. And for the scope of this presentation, tonight we're going to talk about the value that systems bring when applied to solve complex business problems, more specifically inside design. So what are systems made of? Quite simply, they are made of just three components: the elements, the interconnection of the elements, which is one of the most important components, and the purpose of the system, which is essentially the intended outcome that we want the system to produce. So as I mentioned, the interconnections of the elements is a very important component that defines systems. And we can think of them as leverage points. In a system, each element acts as leverage points. And so modifying one of these elements has a potential to cause significant impacts on all other interconnected elements. And this characteristic grants systems of superpower, as one single change can have significant effects across multiple areas, making them incredibly powerful tools for creating positive change. So there are also other great features that systems have. They allow for scale. They show you the big picture because they represent the big picture. They are effective in repurposing and reusing. and they create consistency and set standards. So system-driven design is a problem-solving approach that looks at the big picture and considers all the interdependencies of the elements, and then use that information to make decisions. So that was just a little bit kind of high level to just give you like a sense of what values systems can bring. Now let's talk about let's now bring the topic to a more concrete level, and let's talk about the problem that we experienced at Helcim. So most certainly is a problem that many other companies experience at least once, which is scaling up. In our specific case, it's growing a diverse design team. So as I mentioned, as head of design, I oversee marketing and product. And this kind of org structure gives me the ability to see the big picture. And while in the beginning it was a fairly easy task, because essentially there was just me and another couple of designers, over the years we started scaling, and that significantly increased the amount of design being produced. And so we started seeing a few problems emerging. So brand and product disconnection, design assets were out of control, tasks were like repetitive tasks were initiated from scratch, and we were just generally struggling onboarding new designers. More specifically, we noticed that each subgroup in design was essentially prioritizing its own scope and function and unconsciously working in a silo. In this example, you can see 3 areas. So it's invoicing, socials, and web. So 3 areas that design impacts and that have different needs. The problem was that all of these subgroups started thinking about their area as the whole scope. And just to bring a more concrete example, one thing that kind of make these areas similar is, for example, the buttons. So all these teams started developing their own set of buttons. So invoicing was using the existing set contained in our design system. Web and socials had slightly different needs, and they created their own set. And that resulted into having essentially 3 systems with 3 different but similar sets of buttons, which is not ideal. And this was just one aspect that we noticed that it wasn't working the way we were scaling. And so we decided to solve the problem from a system standpoint. So we zoomed out and looked at the big picture. We looked at the whole design team and all the elements and interconnections, and thought about how we can consolidate everything into just one system that would have scaled, automated, and unified. And so we started building HDS. That stands for Helcim Design System, which is not a super creative name, which is essentially a global design, a global system that governs design. So HDS consists of 3 layers. There is core, area, and domain. These layers are hierarchical and one impacts the other. So core is the first layer. Everything in core powers everything else. We arranged it in a way that it's modular, combining all the primary components of the design system. So we have style guides, brand tokens, asset library, and a UI system. So style guides is a space where essentially we document how our brand should be utilized, the do's and don'ts, and the brand patterns. The brand tokens are the fundamental bricks of our visual brand. Those constitute all design being produced. Essentially, it's typography, color palette, graphics, the graphic system, the layout system, and iconography. And then we have the asset libraries, and which, as the name says, it organizes all design assets embedded in our creatives and it's primarily for marketing. So we have all renders, photography, videos, spot illustrations, and infographic. And then we have the UI system. And the UI system has become global, empowers not only product UIs, but also web and all other environments that need UI components. So the UI system in particular exists in two spaces: Figma, which everybody knows what it is, and Storybook. And Storybook is essentially a code library that holds all our Figma components, along with the code snippets and all the props we are using, Vue.js. So everything that sort of supports the development, the engineering team. So that was core, and this is area. So area is the second layer, and it holds the subsystems department specific. That means that for every department, we created subsystems that use the elements contained in the core to create sort of further systems more specialized to the needs of the department. In this case, we find HDS marketing, HDS product, and HDS communication. So HDS marketing holds the subsystems created to manage emails and web design. And on top of that, it holds boilerplate components, which are like sorts of templates that we use for our recurring social posts and ads. And then we have HDS product, which is essentially a pattern library that we use for product design. It identifies design patterns that we can use across all our product ecosystems. So it doesn't necessarily hold specific components because those can be found in the UI system, but more of a high-level documentation on how clusters of components are utilized. To give you an example, essentially various solutions to display or edit data, different layout options, global patterns like credit card entry or approval screens, and so on. So more like patterns are sort of like recurring design solutions that define behaviors that you can find across all our product ecosystems. And then we have HDS communication, which is essentially, it contains media kits. We do come up with media kits based on the release that we are doing, and our brand book. So we use them mainly externally for our medium press. And so on top of that, it also holds templates for internal presentations and content for recruitment that our people and culture departments uses. And so that is HDS communication, so Helcim Design System for communication. Now, let's talk about domain. Domain is the third layer that corresponds to the space where the actual tasks are performed. And this is the space where designers work to solve end problems. And it is essentially, it essentially reflects the org structure that the company has and its teams. From the slide here, you can see a mix of domains. There are many more. So we can see web, mobile, ads, and payments. They are all different domains that pertains to either marketing or product. And the content of those domains basically corresponds to the final tasks that the team is working on. So given this structure, it is interesting to note that this system to organize design can also be reflected in the team. And maybe this could be like a possible potential structure that we're going to organize our team in the future. So we have, on one side, we have designers system oriented, and on the other side, we have designers task oriented. So the first side, like the first system-oriented designers, they work on continually maintaining and growing the system as a sort of functional environment for the other designers to perform. And the designers task-oriented instead focus on delivering the final output. Currently, we have something at Helcim that is getting closer to that vision. As one of our teams is called Design System, so it's a design system team. However, their scope is maintaining the UI system from a code perspective, so it's not global yet. Although their role is system focused, so they empower developers to build the final features. So developers in this case act as designers task oriented. So we are kind of like already adopting this sort of approach just for like one specific area. And in the future, we might move more toward like defining these two groups of designers. So here in this slide, you can see an example of an ad deconstructed. You can see all the elements of the system that compose it. So you can see brand tokens, the UI system, it's the button, the assets, the actual image of the card reader, and the brand tokens are like the gradient, the brand gradient, the graphic system that we use. So then you can see the layout defined in the boilerplate, which is like the actual layout of the ad, and that's defined into HDS marketing. And finally, the specific domain, so where the ad lives, which is in this case digital ads, and that corresponds to the final task. So for this example, you can clearly see how all the elements of the system are leverage points, and as I was saying in the beginning, and one change on one of those, like brand tokens, for example, would affect the entire system. So the way we built this ad is the same to how we are building all our brand creatives. And here you can see a glimpse to our comprehensive visual brand and get a sense of how the system that we are building can sort of act as an engine for execution, the thing that I was saying in the beginning. So to recap, so system-driven design is an approach that we can take into consideration when we need to solve complex problems. What makes it very powerful is its ability to solve problems at scale. It provides an holistic view of the ecosystem. It sets standards to build consistency, because it sets some guidelines that you can kind of work within. And most importantly, it creates legacy that persists over time. So people come and go. Every company has talented people. They come and go, but the system that they build keep growing and keep evolving with the companies. So in a way, they eventually also define those companies. So to conclude, the next time you need to solve a complex, messy problem that spans across multiple areas, consider approaching it from a system standpoint to maximize the impact of your solution. Thank you.
That was some hard-hitting design bombs for you there, Rodolfo. Thank you very, very much. We'll certainly open the stage to any Q&A. So when you were talking about the great definition of culture and systems there. We hear the word systems so many times in business, but I think from a design perspective, you kind of really hit the nail on the head there. So yeah, fantastic content. One question I was curious to understand, Rodolfo, specifically from the product because I mean, what we're going to get discussing today is, and what I loved you hit the nail on, is kind of the difference between the different teams. It's like, here's the social team, here's the web team, here's the mobile team. Where does the product management function of product come into it? How are you guys kind of, and how is the team kind of engaging with product management on these types of decisions?
When it comes to product, we have product managers, and we are arranged in cross-functional teams, and those teams work on the sort of the end problem, to solve the end problem. When it comes to marketing, it's sort of a different space. We have the head of marketing, and we have domains there. We have web, emails, advertisement campaigns, and etc. The tricky part is that because I oversee both, I can see sort of like the big picture. Otherwise, these teams naturally start working in a silo and sort of like just, think about their own function.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it comes to design, we're trying to build a system that is like more comprehensive, and all these like the features that I went through, core, area, and domain, accounts for both sort of spaces, marketing and product. And that allows us to, as designers, to kind of like take into consideration also the other space. The product designers know about like the work of brand designers and the other way around.
Yeah, cool. Thanks so much for sharing. One other thing I'm going to say, I don't know what the situation at Helcim is. There's two words I'm looking for. Where? Hiring. Are you guys growing at Helcim? What's the story there? Because we got a bunch of product people in the audience. So give us a plug, man. Tell us what's happening at Helcim.
So we hired our last product designer a couple of weeks ago. For now, we are like okay. But we're going to start probably hiring more in the fall. We are continually growing our team. Now we hired a ton of people in the last year, like I'm talking about 50 people. So we need to kind of like slow down a little bit and absorb the new hires, making sure that, they get into the flow. And so we are taking this break, and probably in the fall, we're going to hire more.
Yeah, awesome. No, that's fine. And it looks like I saw a lot of growth happening in the last kind of 18-ish months. And it seems like kind of since July, August last year, so kind of when it got a little bit chilly, the layoffs started happening there. But no, glad to hear Helcim is growing. You're absorbing that talent. And once again, man, just want to say thanks so much. The content, the brand was beautiful. We're in the middle of a rebrand at the moment for our website. I'm like, I love these colors and the gradients. It really tells a story. And I thought it was excellent, the branding and the content you put forward again. So once again, I wanted to say thank you so much, Rodolfo.
Thank you so much.
At Helcim. Yeah, man, thanks so much. Have a great night.
Thank you.
We'll catch up later. Cheers, man.
Thanks.